Um, alright, there you go. This is my third video. I kind of have an idea of what I'm going to be doing. I'm also thinking, um, I saw Venom. I've seen it twice already. Let There Be Carnage. And alright, so I've seen it twice in theaters, and it's normally a little weird for me because I don't even watch MCU movies twice in theater. I saw Shang-Chi twice, and um, what other one? Endgame, and yeah, I don't even watch MCU movies more than once in theaters that often, or like hardly ever. So the fact that I've seen Venom twice now, and I want to see it a few more times, uh, is kind of funny because it's not really what I'm into. You know, like it's I've always liked the Venom character, and that reminds me, I need to get Venom comic. Anyways, so that reminds, where was I? Yeah, so I've seen the Venom movie a few times already, and I keep like it an interesting movie because it's not like sorry, let me just hold on. Going to good night. An hour. Right. So where was I? Oh yeah, it's not like a normal superhero movie that I'm used to. It's a little bit different, and it's funny. It's genuinely funny, and I want to talk to people about it, and then I do, and then it's like I keep forgetting. I really need to do something about. Anyways, um, yeah. So it's really funny, and I'm debating on whether or not I should make a review video on it. It's just me talking for another 30 to 40 minutes. But if you keep coming back, then okay. Plus, if people tell me, oh, could you make like a Venom review video or like whatever, that's a bit better for me because then I know what other people want to watch. You know, because right now I'm just making videos blindly as what I want, and if they're like, oh, can you do this, and if it's a little out of my way, then like, okay, I'll do it. Sure, why not? You know, might as well. But if it's too far away, like, can you review mangas? I will not. I'm sorry. I'll like read one, depending for future videos that I have in mind. But I'm not gonna. No, I'm sorry. Um, right. So I'm debating on whether or not I should make a video. I think I am, but if I could get feedback from anyone watching this video right now, I probably won't upload this because I uploaded the second one. This is my second video already, so I'm filming the third one. So I probably won't upload this one. Maybe Monday. I'm debating on Friday, just so if I do get feedback, I can gather up my thoughts for the weekend and record it Monday, and kind of see where it goes from there. Um, so yeah, so I'll probably upload if I record it Monday, I'll probably upload it Wednesday then. So I'm still trying to figure out what days to upload videos. I want to do it weekly. I don't want to do it like every other day. I want to record like a bunch of videos at once, maybe like two or three at a time, and then just kind of like slowly um upload them. So as I upload them, I still have like two or three ready to go. So if like for whatever reason I can't like record a video, then uh, then like it's already there, like ready to go. Like, oh, there you go. And you know, just be safe. You know, better be safe than sorry. But yeah, I'm debating on whether or not I should make a Venom video. I love the movie. It's super funny. It's really good. A lot of people were, well, I know a good amount of people that were hesitant to watch it because the first one wasn't that good, and I agree. It's good. It's okay, but it's not great. The second one is so better. It's so much better. It's hilarious, and I loved it. I genuinely wanted my one complaint. Well, I have a few complaints about the movie because it's not great. But one complaint about the movie is that all anyone wants to talk about is the end credit scene. So if I do a Venom review video, I will not be talking about the Venom end credit scene because that's all anyone wants to talk about, and no one wants to talk about the movie. So if you want to watch a video about the end credit scene, go literally anywhere else. And I will not be doing breakdowns or Easter eggs. I cannot do that because I do not know everything. So yeah, if you want breakdown Easter egg videos, go to New Rockstars. I think I recommended them when I first started doing these videos for fun. They're great. I love their channel. Right. So comic books review. I'm wearing my Watcher T-shirt and Watcher format. I'm debating whether or not I should stop bringing him in. Bring a Groot. Haha. But today, because he looks pretty cool. I like Groot. Plant. Look at this. Only thing is kind of covers my face a bit. Put you up here. Now this is kind of cluttered. You can't see my shirt. And I like to wear a shirt correlating to the videos I make. But for now, I'll just put you to the side. There you go. That's good. Okay, so first comic book recommendation for today. These are just because the first one was Thor was just accidentally Thor. It wasn't intentional. I just really like the Jane Foster Thor run. I think it's super cool. And then the second one was for Disney Plus. That was also kind of intentional because my plan was to make for individual characters and then like storyline, like not storylines, story events. But the first Thor comic, the first video kind of had a lot of Thor comics of the, and then like a huge story arc, story event, and then the second one had like a lot of individual characters. So my pile is kind of small now. So I'm going to start off the video 7 minutes late. So the first comic book is Captain America. He's one of my favorite characters. Before the shield was in the back, but then I got this John Oliver last week tonight, the Void background, and it's super cool. I like it. I look super professional, and I'm not. I should get a suit, but I'm not gonna wear a suit to make these videos because then the t-shirt. I don't know. I think the t-shirt's a part like a bit of the fun. It's like yeah, it's correlating. This shirt is not correlating. It's just correlating with him. But yeah. Anyways, I'm so sorry. So Captain America is one of my favorite characters. I had not read a lot of Steve Rogers comics other than Secret Empire and the Steve run where he's evil, and I kind of wanted to get more into like who he is because I've obviously know about him from the MCU, and I kind of wanted to learn more about him. And I was like, I don't know which ones to read because there are a lot, and so I just kind of picked up Captain America White. Why is he white? I don't know. That's a good question. Anyways, Captain America White is pretty cool. There's a whole colored series by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. Sorry. There's a whole colored series. They have other characters. There's Spiderman Blue. I unfortunately have not read that one. There's Hulk Gray. I think it's gray because Hulk was originally supposed to be gray in the comic books, but they changed it because of printer problem. Yeah, so I read Captain America White. It's pretty good. The story is pretty much a retelling of the events of World War II with Captain America and Bucky Barnes, because in the comic books, initially Bucky Barnes did die. So it's kind of it's him. It's about Steve Rogers. It's just in World War II. It's not modern day. They're all just really short, simple, straight to the point stories. You know, it's like they're kind of like, oh, this is who this character is. You know, this is what makes them. You know, and so it's Steve Rogers reminiscing about World War II during the war. He's still fighting in the war, but this is like after Bucky has passed, and so he's like, oh man, Bucky, I miss you. And it's just kind of him going into like how like how he kind of got his power. Steve got his powers, and how at first he had a secret identity and no one knew who he was, and so yeah, so no one knew who he was, and then Bucky accidentally like bumps into him and is like, oh my god, and Steve Rogers is like, I'm gonna take this child, because Bucky Barnes, and when he first was introduced in comics, he was a literal child. Steve Rogers had the right idea. I'm gonna take this child to war with me, and does just that. And it's pretty much one of their adventures that happens, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Once again, these colors, the ones that I've read, and I've unfortunately have only read two, they're really just straight to the point. It's usually I'll go into the other character, who it is. I'll go into who the other character is in a bit. But yeah, they're just like reminiscing, and they're just, yeah, this is what happened, and it ends with like on a happy note, So there's that one. This other one, because I wanted to go into like the characters I liked the most first, and Captain America is one of them. This other one is Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man. He's super cool. Amazing Spider-Man by Nick Spencer from I believe 2018. Yeah, wait, hold on. Yeah, 2018. This one's not that good. I will be honest. This one's not that good because it's too out there. It's too otherworldly. And the thing about Spider-Man that I like about Spider-Man is that he's like grounded. It was good for a while, but then it just became too convoluted. It became too complicated. He was getting involved. He has a pet that's like a monster from a different planet, and it's like endangered, or it's almost extinct, and it can like grow, or it can shrink, and it has like a very short temper, and it's he's keeping it in his apartment, and he can't keep pets, and it's like, what is this? What is this? And like up to that point, a little bit after that, I'm like, I'm just gonna read up until like where the story ends, and I did. It does the story, because it does arcs, and like the arc ended, and it was like, oh, there's this arc coming up, and I'm like, no, I'm sorry. And typically I like to see things through, but I didn't. And one of my friends sent me a video on like one of the future arcs that they just recently did. And it's so bad. It's so confusing. It's so bad. I'm like, I'm so glad I stopped reading at that point. And it does pain me to say this, because Spider-Man is one of my favorite characters. So the fact that this run sucked, well, not sucked, it wasn't that good, I'm like, oh no. It is a bummer though. It is a bummer. And I know Spectacular Spider-Man. Oh, that was so cool. There's that Spider-Man when he was there's that run where he was rich because he became Superior Spider-Man is so good also. I love Superior Spider-Man. I wanted to get the complete collection for this video and like reread it, because I honestly do love Superior Spider-Man. It's so good. Okay, so Superior Spider-Man, I unfortunately do not have it, so I'll picture, I don't know, it'll cover my face, so you won't see my hand gestures. I already mentioned it, so I'm probably gonna do it there, and I'll probably do it again. There are two Superior Spider-Man storylines, so I'll go into that one, because I'm basically done talking about this one. I do have another one. I have a few more, but Superior Spider-Man I love Superior Spider-Man because alright, so you may or may not have seen the Freaky Friday movies, and that's fine. I saw the old one, the original one. It was pretty bad. I have not seen the Lindsay Lohan ones, and I don't intend to. I don't intend to watch them, because why? I saw the original one. That's what matters. If I'm with a friend and they're like, "Hey, do you want to watch Freaky Friday?" and I'm like, "Okay, I'll do that," but that's not the point. So, it's Freaky Friday, and it's Doc Ock, and it's Spider-Man, and they swap bodies. So it's Doc Ock in the body of Peter Parker, and Peter Parker in the body of Doc Ock. Now, the reason why Doc Ock does this is because Doc Ock's body is dying because he has like cancer, and he's like in this weird, like, suit thing, and he technically doesn't have any arms because it's like encapsulated in the suit, and he looks so disgusting. It's sick. It's like it's cool, sick, and it's also like mortifyingly sick. And he's basically dying, and he wants to destroy Spider-Man's reputation as a hero. And he's like, yeah, like the last thing you're gonna know is me going off and like about to destroy your life, you know. And Spider-Man's like, no, and I was like, ah, too bad. And then they fight for a little bit. Doc Ock's body dies with the mind of Peter Parker, and Peter Parker's body with the mind of Doc Ock lives. And like the reader, I kind of knew what was going on, but I was reading it because I didn't have the comic book because I read it during class, and I was reading it and I was like, whoa, that's so cool! Like I can't believe they did that. Scrolling because my laptop is touchscreen. This one is not, unfortunately, but that's fine. So yeah, I was reading it and I was kind of shocked that they actually did that. I'm like, well, I can't. Like, what? Like, how does this work now? Like, it's like they changed the Spider-Man character significantly. How does a villain be Spider-Man? And the reason why Doc Ock decides to be a hero instead of a villain, instead of go through with his plan, is because he kind of goes into the memories of Peter Parker and he looks at what he's lost and how that's affected him. And he's like, oh, this is why he does it. This is why he dresses up and he almost dies every night because of everything that's happened to him, because of his Uncle Ben, because of what he has taught him. And so he's like, you know what? I'm going to carry out the legacy of Spider-Man, but I'm going to be better than Peter Parker. I'm going to be superior. I'm going to be superior. I ruined it. I ruined the joke. It's gone. Damn it. Oh, those jokes are so funny. Anyways, yeah, he says he's going to be superior to Peter Parker. And so the way he changes the suit, and since he's Doc Ock, you know, and since this is Spider-Man, he creates a whole new suit with like spider legs on his back, and they kind of come out, and like he's really good with them. And he's like a really aggressive Spider-Man, and he starts killing his villains, and he starts Spider-Man's incredibly strong. He's fought with the Hulk, and so whenever he fights normal villains, he needs to pull back his punches. But Doc Ock is like, nah, fam, I'm gonna beat you to a pulp. And that's exactly what he does. And he's so aggressive with all of his villains. He starts experimenting on Sandman, and he's made out of sand. He starts torturing him, and like Sandman's like, I hate you for doing this to me, because he's made out of sand. So the fact that he can torture him like says a lot to like how far of the methods he used in order to get what he wanted out of Sandman. And yeah, and so like he was just burning bridges left and right, and the Avengers were like, hey, what's going on? And he's like, nothing, I'm good. And so no one really people are like what's going on? And he's like, yeah. And then some people get suspicious, but then like they kind of brush it off and like, all right, Spider-Man's a weird dude, you know. And he stops cracking jokes, and eventually one of his villains does find out, and I'm not gonna say who. I'm granted you might already know, but one of his villains does find out that it's Doc Ock, and he starts taunting him, and it's like, yeah, I was always a better villain than you. What makes you think you can defeat me as a hero? And it's interesting because Doc Ock genuinely wants to do good for once in his life, and it's like, I actually want to help these people. And I like it, because then at the end, obviously, comic books always return to their status quo. You know, at the end of the day, Peter Parker is always going to be Spider-Man. Steve Rogers is always going to be Captain America. Thor is always going to be Thor. Bruce Banner is always going to be Hulk. So no matter how many changes these comics go through, at the end of the day, they're eventually going to come back and go back to, you know, the original template. Which is kind of why I kind of got a little tired of reading Marvel comics. So I kind of started branching into indie comics, because every time something changes in the indie comics, it stays that way. They don't undo, you know? Or if they do undo, which is rare, it's like, you know, it needs to happen that way. Or, not it needs to, that's a poor choice of words. But, like, there's a reason why. There's a specific reason why they do it. And that's, like, they don't do it often. Or ever, if I'm being honest. But, yeah, so, like, I kind of got a little tired. Because, like, Superior Spider-Man is so cool. I honestly would have wanted to see more of him. And I did. But, like, for a bit. But anyways, I was saying, yeah, eventually, Peter Parker does end up coming back, and you kind of start seeing, once you evaluate how Doc Ock did as Spider-Man and how Peter Parker is doing as Spider-Man, you kind of see and you kind of compare the two, and sorry, my eyes itching. And you're like, oh wow, like Peter Parker is definitely a better Spider-Man than Doc Ock, and that to me was kind of like why I really like Spider-Man so much. And kind of like it really enforces like this is what makes this character really great. And so I really like that about Superior Spider-Man. As a whole, it's a different take on the character, but I love it. It's so cool. He's pretty dark. I'm not gonna lie, he's pretty dark, but I like him. Anyways, next comic book I want to recommend, and this is pretty good. I've only read 6 issues, but I did read this other one. So this next one is Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. It's by, who's it by? Taylor Cable Kinar or Sinar and Franchin. This one's pretty good. I've only read the first volume, and it seems pretty grounded. It starts off like weird, but it eventually does get pretty grounded, and yeah, that's honestly really like about it. I know one of the future issues, Peter Parker is sick. He gets sick, and it's literally just Mary Jane taking care of him, and that's it. Like you just follow Mary Jane around, like she does errands for him. You know, she picks up like soup or whatever, and she comes back home like, oh hey, like, you know, this, and then she kind of tells him about the day, and like Peter Parker is just in bed the entire day, like nothing happens. It's just that, and honestly, that's what makes Spider-Man an interesting character for me. That's what makes Spider-Man an interesting character that I can gravitate. Whatever. That's what makes him an interesting character, and I like that about him because you see all these different characters, heroes, kind of like you never see them do normal day things. And it's like, I know you have a life, bro. Where do you get your groceries? Like, you never once see Steve Rogers go grocery shopping for, like, fruits and veggies. Never. I would love to see that. I know a few times you see Peter Parker go grocery shopping and, like, something happen. Whenever you see any, at least for me, whenever I've seen any superhero do anything normal, oh, a supervillain's going to attack in the next few pages. And they do. And it's, no, that's not what I want to see. I want him to go pick up groceries and go home and make himself an omelet. That's it. That's all I want to see. How does, how does he, like, Spider-Man, like, takes down a crime boss and he's like, yeah, I won. And then he goes home, makes an omelet, and he can't tell anyone, yeah, I took down a crime boss. I want to see that, but it never happens. So yeah, that's pretty much what this comic more or less does for the character, and it's cool. You don't need to read this one. I recommend it, but it's not like, it's not like you need to, but like it's still good. It's still worth checking out. But if anything, I do highly recommend Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man issue 6, introducing Spider-Bite. Why? I'm not going to say. Just check it out. Just check out this one. That's it. That's it. I'm not going to say why. Anyways, moving on. Spider-Man Life Story. The 60s. Nothing about Life Story. I did not know what this comic book was about other than Spider-Man. I was like, oh, it must be about Spider-Man. The Life Story. I really like Life Story. It was really good. They have Fantastic Four Life Story. I'm probably gonna recommend that like in my next video. There are only a couple issues and they're not done yet, so I'm actually debating on whether or not I will recommend it because I want to at least read. Because if it's a mini series, I want to have read the whole thing. But if it's an ongoing thing, I want to have read at least the first volume. So yeah, Spider-Man Life Story. Let me go into it now. It's pretty much, so Spider-Man was created. Well, he was published August 10th, 1962, in the 60s. It's so Spider-Man has had a lot of storylines since the 60s. So in the 60s, he had like a ton of storylines. Then he had a bunch of comic books in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and so on until the 2000s. And what Life Story does is it pretty much tells his life story Like, you know, like you see Peter Parker in high school in the 60s, the Vietnam War is happening. He's like debating whether or not he should go, and that was a storyline that actually came out in the 60s, and they managed to incorporate that in all of his other huge storylines, and they made it, and they condensed it down into like all the storylines of like one decade, and every issue is a decade. So issue number 2 is the 70s. So you see Spider-Man going through all of his storylines from the 70s, all in one decade, in one issue, and it's great. And as the issues progress, as the decades go on, he ages as well. So he's not in high school for like 50 years, you know, and he actually gets older. And as he gets older, you see him kind of like, obviously he's still Spider-Man, but he's old. He's like, his bones are getting a bit like weaker for him to like move, and it's really great. They really get the character of Spider-Man down, and he's like, yeah, you know, I know I said it a lot, and it's kind of a vague thing to say, and it's repetitive, and a lot of people say that, and I feel like a lot of people say it to the point where it loses meaning, but it's this really gets it. It gets all like I've read enough of his comic books to know the storylines, and I know enough of the character to recognize elements from the comic books and be like, oh, that was from the Clone Saga, and it was terrible, and don't read it. And so yeah, they meshed all the different storylines throughout the decades very well into every issue, and I thought it was great. Like I didn't know what the comic was about beforehand. It just looked pretty, and I was like, I'm gonna get this one because it looks pretty. And I read it, I'm like, whoa, this is actually pretty cool. And yeah, they did that very well. And in retrospect, I wouldn't have thought they would have been able to pull it off, but they did, and it worked very nicely. And yeah, and it ends, and it has a beautiful ending. It's a very nice comic book run, and I highly recommend this one. Once again, if you don't want to like read like, I don't know, 700 comic books of the dude, that's fine. I get it. I don't either. That's a lot of reading. I'm behind on my own reading. It's the last thing I want to do. Read Life Story. It condenses all of his, you know, storylines, and it's like, oh yeah, this is for the characters. This is what he's been through. That's all you need to know. And it does introduce Miles at one point, and yeah, it does it all well. It incorporates the Superior Spider-Man storyline as well, but it does a twist to it. I guess me telling you there's a twist to it kind of takes away the twist. There's no twist to it. Everything's normal. Yeah, it's really good. I recommend this one. It's, I believe, 6 or 7 issues. 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 10s. Oh, yeah, six issues. And there was an annual not that long ago, Spider-Man Life Story Annual 1. This one kind of focuses on J. Jonah Jameson throughout the decades and his hatred for Spider-Man. And it's pretty good. I'm not going to go into that much because it's only one issue and I don't want to give too much away. But it's still worth checking out. And so yeah, I love Spider-Man. He's super cool. He's very bright. But I also love, and I typically don't like Noir. That's a lie. I haven't seen enough Noir to have a proper opinion on it. It looks cool, but I'll never really go out of my way to watch it unless, once again, friends are like, hey, let's watch this Noir movie. I'm like, okay, cool. So I haven't seen enough Noir to have a proper opinion on it. It looks nice. It looks pretty in like a dark way. It was like, ooh, like, you know, like I don't know, like I think I like Noir, right? Yeah, all right. Wow, I do like Noir. Cool. Anyways, I'm sure you probably know where this is going. Spider-Man Noir. This is not his first comic book, and this is the only one I have. But Spider-Man Noir is super cool. I love Spider-Man Noir because he's like, he's so dark. Oh my god, he's like, every time I bring up Spider, because I knew who Spider-Man Noir was like for a while, obviously, and then when they announced the Spider-Verse movie, and I'm like, oh cool, awesome, and they announced Spider-Man Noir was gonna be in it, like, yeah, let's go. I love Spider-Man Noir. They kind of made him a bit lighthearted, which I was a little bummed out, but I was like, it's a kid's movie. I get it. They mentioned that his Uncle Ben died, but they didn't say how. And I'm like, it's probably best that they don't. Because every time my friends make up, oh yeah, Spider-Man Noir looks really cool. I'm like, excuse you, Spider-Man Noir is super cool. He doesn't look cool, he is cool. And I'm like, yeah, it's super dark. And they're like, well, how dark can Spider-Man get? You know, he's just Spider-Man. Like, what is he, Batman or whatever? I'm like, no, he's not. But I mean, he's a detective, sort of. He's a private investigator, sort of. He works. It's the 30s. All right, so Spider-Man Noir takes place in the 30s, and it's pretty much during the Great Depression. And I believe Spider-Man Noir was the first character to get their own noir run, and other characters since have gotten their own noir runs, but they've all been like short 4 issues. And I've only read one other one, and I will get into it. But if you do want to read like something fun, not lighthearted, because they're typically not lighthearted, but if you want to read something fun and interesting and outside of like the main Marvel continuity, the noir characters are a pretty fun way to go. They're really interesting, and if you have like a vague idea of who they are and what they've been through, or just like a vague idea of like, if you know who they are, if you've seen like the Avengers, then you're like, oh, that's Iron Man. And then if you read Iron Man Noir, it's like, oh, what? It's interesting. It's a very interesting take, and Doctor Octopus does show up at one point in the Spider-Man Noir comics, and it's all, what did my friend say? Cyberpunk? Is that no, punkish, apocalypse funk, something with the word punk in it, and because that's kind of how that version of Doc Ock look. Electro shows up. Mysterio also shows up, and they're all, you know who they are because of what their gimmick is, but if you just saw like their costume, you wouldn't be able to recognize them. And I think that's actually pretty cool, because as you're reading the comic book, you see all these different characters and you never know who is who. So every time Spider-Man Noir confronts them, you never know, what are they going to do? How is this fight going to go? How is Spider-Man going to, win? And I honestly really like that. Some of them are really obvious, and then some of them are very subtle. Like a Vulture is like, oh, he doesn't. I don't know. It's great. All right. In the comic books, Vulture doesn't have a wingsuit. He cannot fly, as far as I know, because I have not seen him fly. I have read all of the current Spider-Man Noir comics because I think they're super cool. And as far as I have seen him, and that's, I don't know if like in the future comic book they'll make him fly. That'd be weird, but whatever. So in the comic books, Uncle Ben dies because the Vulture eats him. He kills him and he eats him, and he's just like a zombie, except he's not a zombie. And Spider-Man eventually finds out, and he's like, what? And yeah, so every time I tell people like, oh yeah, like, do you know how his Uncle Ben died? Like, it's really dark. And like, how did he die? Like, the Vulture ate his Uncle Ben. And like, what? And like, yeah, like, imagine them bringing that up in the Spider-Verse movie. That would be kind of funny, in a dark way. I saw the movie with my niece, and she was 3, and I was like, a man ate his uncle, baby. And she's like, she was 3, she couldn't talk. So yeah, Spider-Man Noir, a really great series. I love them all. I also wanted to get the complete collection, but since it's older now, it's a bit more expensive, and I can't afford to spend money right now. So I unfortunately couldn't get it. I will at some point, hopefully. I don't know. Sorry, again. Another character that got a noir run that I have read and I have thoroughly enjoyed is Daredevil. Now, the only bummer thing about this comic book is that it's 4 issues, and I don't want to give too much away, because they do go through a lot. They unpack a lot in 4 issues, and it's overall really great. And I don't know how to really... Daredevil as a character is a solid character. I love Daredevil. I think he's super cool. He's in my top 3 favorite Marvel heroes. Marvel characters. This guy. Because he's not really a hero. I guess you could consider him a hero, but that's pushing it, arguably. Sorry. Yeah, so Daredevil Noir, it's Daredevil in the 1930s. He has to fight, the Kingpin exists, and he has certain characters come back from Daredevil that I honestly didn't recognize because I don't know all of Daredevil's like villains because he does have a decent amount of villains. Some of them do show up. Bullseye does show up. He is like a huge villain. Bullseye and Kingpin are like Daredevil's two biggest villains. They also show up, and it's also interesting how they use a crime boss, Kingpin, in the 1930s because that's like more or less when they peaked. Granted, they arguably peaked in the 1920s because of the Prohibition Act, booze. That's when they really peaked. Organized crime was a huge thing in the 1920s, and it would have been interesting to see that. And I mean, like I said, 1930s crime was obviously still a thing because it's not like once the 20s were over, crime was like no more crime. But yeah, so it was interesting seeing Kingpin in the 1930s because that's more or less when they peaked, or around the time after the time they peaked. So I did kind of like that. All of the artwork in both of them, it's like really dark. In the Spider-Man Noir comic that I just showed you, it's all like black and white, and like you'll occasionally see like some other colors, but they'll like be really really dark. And the only color that stands out was the color red, and I was like, yeah, for Daredevil, the color red sometimes occasionally stands out because it's like the color red is a huge thematic color for the character, and I really like that. Yeah, his origin though. His background is interesting. It's not the same as comic books. They changed it to fit the 1930s, and I gotta say, I was impressed. I really liked it. I was like, huh, this is an interesting take on the Daredevil character in the 1930s. Because I was curious because I thought he was a lawyer. He's not, but it's interesting what his day job is. And, you know, that's all I'm going to say. It's worth checking out for that, because I really like that aspect of it. Like, this makes sense, and I like it. Anyways, colored series. Daredevil Yellow, by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. This one, once again, same thing as Captain America White. Why is Daredevil yellow? He's a white man. Anyways, he had a yellow suit. It's the same thing as Captain America White. It's Daredevil once again reminiscing on his past, and it tells he's telling a story to someone, and you don't know who that someone is. You eventually figure it out, and then at the end it's revealed, like, oh yeah, I thought so. That's on purpose. You know, you don't, like, that's not, like, if you want a mystery, these are comic book writers. These are professional comic book writers. If they want a mystery, they would have not done that. He starts narrating it. He starts narrating the story, talking to someone. You're like, who's he talking to? And then, like, halfway through, you're like, oh, is he talking to this person? And then at the end, it's like, and they were talking to this person the entire time because, you know, just, I don't know. And so that was intentional. It was a little nice and sad because that's more or less what like the Daredevil character is. He carries a lot of guilt, and he's a Catholic man. And so, yeah, that was pretty interesting of him. And so, yeah, there's not much to talk about that. Daredevil Yellow. It's just pretty much, you know, get to know the character. That's pretty much what these colored series are. Get to know the character. That's all they are. And they're worth checking out. I want to read more of them. I want to read Hulk Gray and Spider-Man Blue, because, especially Spider-Man Blue. I love Spider-Man. Anyways, going back to Daredevil. Man Without Fear, #1. This one came out 2018. You can tell because they have the Stanley. I talked about this one in my first video. Stanley, 1922, 2018. That was a sad, sad day. Anyways, so there was a Daredevil run in 2016 by Mark Waid, I believe, and I don't know what goes on in that run. I want to say he's in San Francisco, but I can't say it for certain because I know at one point Daredevil did move to San Francisco, but I don't know if that was 2014, 2016. Point is, there was a whole Daredevil run. I do not know what happens in it, other than it's pretty good. I might check it out. And then it ends with him being, like, hospitalized. And so Man Without Fear is Matt Murdock, you know, Daredevil's persona, in the hospital. And that's all it is. It's him in the hospital bed trying to recover from his injuries. It's 5 issues, and I'm telling you, it's literally just him in a bed, in the hospital bed, and I really liked it because it's like, okay, he got his ass kicked intensely. I do not know the story. I just know he got his ass kicked from whatever fight he was fighting in, and now he needs to like take time and like heal himself. And I'm like, cool, awesome. There should be more comics like this, you know? And pretty much like the whole, it's him trying to recover, obviously, and it's him also looking back on his memories on the fights with Kingpin, and sometimes he'll have like nightmares, and he'll have to like overcome his nightmares. And I'm like, this is why aren't there more of these? There should be more of these. There should always be more of these. You know, these are so cool. But yeah, so that's that. And then he's healed enough to be dismissed from the hospital, so they let him out. So it eventually leads into just Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky. And this is pretty good. I had a friend of mine who would not shut up about Daredevil. I was like, oh my god, Daredevil. I'm like, dude, can you like stop talking about it? We get it. You like, and like you talk about it so much, and I was like, I guess I'll check it out. And it's pretty good. I really liked it. I always liked Daredevil. I've only read his. I've only read these, but I've up to this point I'd only seen his Netflix show. I really like his Netflix show. A lot of people don't, and that kind of sucks because they're like, but whatever, not the point. This is pretty good. It feels like the Netflix show, but like longer in a way, and it all flows continuously. And I don't want to go into what more or less happens because it's a huge pivotal moment, and it's huge for the story. And I don't want to give that away, even though part of me kind of does, but I'm not going to because that's mean. But yeah, so that one was pretty good. They're like 30 issues in right now. I'm still buying them. It's one of the few comic books I'm still actively buying. Sorry. So this last one, I unintentionally saved it for last, but I guess it's like save the best for last, and he passed away like a little over a year ago. And when he passed, I didn't know. I wasn't here. I left my phone here, and I was out of town. And I come back home, I'm like, what happened? They're like, oh yeah, Black Panther died. I'm like, he hasn't been in a movie recently. Like, no movies have come out. I'm like, no, the actor died. I'm like, oh, what? So, I'm not crying. I'm just, my eyes itchy. So, yeah. And coincidentally, the weekend he died, I had picked up a Black Panther comic because I was going to be gone for like a weekend. So I figured I might as well read up on Black Panther because I was hearing like the second movie was going to have how it was have a huge role for Phase 4 moving forward, and it was going to help the world kind of like adapt to everyone coming back all at once. So that was the role it was supposed to have. I don't know what it's going to be like now with him gone, but yeah. So this one's called Black Panther. Who is the Black Panther? By Reginald Hudlin. John Romita Jr. is a really good writer, and his father, John Romita, is a pretty good writer too. It runs in the family. Klaus Janson and Dean White. Now this one is super cool because it goes into. All right, so it's a pretty standard. Damn it. I believe it's 4 issues. Oh, my bad. It's 6 issues, and the first 2 issues of his first appearance in Fantastic Four, number 52 and 53. Where was I going with this? Right. So this comic book, it's Black Panther in Wakanda, and he's like trying to talk to the government. And the government's like, "What do you want to do? What you say?" And Black Panther's like, "Well, you guys suck for these reasons." And so, like, some supervillains infiltrate Wakanda, and they try to take it down. And throughout the storyline, it kind of cuts back and forth to the history of Wakanda and how much more evolved and advanced it is from the rest of the world, and how other how other villains have tried to conquer Wakanda, but they have failed every time. And it kind of shows you interesting ways on how they have failed, and it kind of gives you like a brief history run of like, normal humans discovered these weapons this year, when Wakandans were using these weapons like 500 years ago or something like that. Maybe 500 is a bit of an exaggeration. I don't know the exact number, but yeah. So it kind of shows other people try to conquer Wakanda, and it shows how they've defeated them, and it's kind of like a foreshadowing of how it's going. Obviously, it happens. Heroes always win at the end, and even if their girlfriend dies, oh, we're gonna just clone them. Another universe. Oh no, just kidding. They didn't die. It's a weird thing. So yeah, so that was really nice too. Once again, I don't know anything about Black Panther. I know I've read a few other comic books, and he's just happened to be in them. And I know Black Panther is a really smart man, and it kind of sucks that in the movies, he's not like technologically smart. He's like strategically smart, and that's cool. That's still awesome, but he's not tech smart, and he is tech smart in the comics. And it kind of sucks that they how did people nerfed him? That's a gamer term. Yeah, so that kind of sucks. But overall, the Black Panther comic was really great. I really liked it. If you want to, read about Black Panther and a bit of Wakanda, it's worth checking out. Yeah, I think that's about it, really. I wanted to have some questions, but I forgot what they were. I should have written them down. Main question was really just like Venom review video. Kind of want to do it. Kind of, I'll just talk about it with my friends, and I do. It's cool. Indie comics, I'm almost done with most of my comics. I just need to read like 2 more, but they're like trade paperbacks, so they're kind of not thick, but they're like this thick or whatever. Yeah, I still have a few more Marvel comics to go through, so I'll probably film the other ones this week, and I'll upload this one Friday night or Friday afternoon, and then hopefully get feedback within the weekend, and then film if people say yes, film a Venom review on Monday, and if they don't say yes, I'll just film like a random video or whatever. And all right.